Okay, I think hopefully we see the analog because I was surprised. There's like 6 people on the list from analog, so I'm like, okay, well, this must be a topic that's hot for them. But hopefully they'll join a little bit later. Good to see everyone. Welcome to, oops, wrong button. Welcome to the May session. You guys are all regular, so I'll just kind of skip through these first slides here. You know where you're at, and you know what to do, and you know that the session's being recorded. I'm just seeing. Okay, so one note here. So when I scheduled this session, this is maybe this is the drawback of scheduling so far in advance. I had planned for Verkia to come on, and some of you have probably met Verkia before, and do voice of the customer. She's got tons of experience in NPS and stuff like that. And at the time, she's like, I don't know, I'll be starting a new job, Matt. I might be busy, but go ahead and sign me up. And so I thought she could do it, and then about 3 weeks ago, she's like, "Oh, it's on Thursday, the 28th." I go, "Frick yeah!" But I luckily or fortunately, this is a topic that I feel very comfortable with, and so I told her, I said, "You know what? I would like to do this one honestly myself." And so it is. I'm going to be your presenter today. And I'm going to talk about some of my previous life and experience with VOC. This is a topic near and dear to my heart. So hopefully that's not a negative thing for you, but you're going to hear quite a bit from me. Wins. So we've been collecting wins. You all have been submitting wins. So I thought we should put them on a slide and throw them up here so people can see each other's wins. And I even wanted to, and George is on. George, good to see you. George, tell us about your win that you gave us last week. You attended and last month attended and connected with the Gold Rat group. Which does everyone know Gold Rat? George, can you tell people what Gold Rat Group is, why they should know it, and tell us about this? What did you win?
Sure. Yeah. So I forgot what I wrote, but the as far as the Gold Rat, oh, it's right there. Um, so the Gold Rat group was spun out from the author of The Goal, which is something that if you haven't read, I would definitely recommend. It's definitely um, very fundamental to the theory of constraints.
I should almost make it a requirement for being on the call.
Yes, yes,
And if
yeah.
you're not going to get through the book, there's a movie. I heard it's terrible, but there is a movie. Sorry, George.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And it was more of an introductory course to because they now offer services. Some of the children of the original author are moving forward with some of the consulting type services. Very focused on theory constraints versus maybe some other kind of lean concepts that we all know and love. Um, but one of the daughter wrote a book on flow, which is a little bit more office and based. So and I won the book, so it's a new book. I'm excited to read it and learn from it because I really thoroughly enjoyed kind of the format of the goal. So we'll see how this book is, but I'm happy to be at the opportunity to read it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to ask everyone as usual. I think we mostly know each other, so maybe not as much on the introduction side, but do put any wins that you have in the chats, and we'll continue to share those as part of our, monthly thing that we do. In Brian McDonald, which Scott, you've met Brian. Uh, he's done some work with the Gold Rat Group. I don't know how formally, but on the sales side, the kind of like you're saying, George, like more of the internal processes, that we don't always know and love the way we should. So anyways, awesome. That's great. Okay. So a question that Chris and I have been tossing around, and Chris, I may put you on the spot a little bit in a minute, is there some opportunity, interest in more of a, well, I think of us as a community, especially since so many of you all join regularly, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. And last month we had a lot of discussion around AI and just how it's an evolving thing. There's a lot to know. There's lots of do's and don'ts, everything from internal security and privacy to how to best use. And it felt like we could have ongoing discussion on that topic. And my guess is we could have ongoing discussion on the topic for weeks. So Chris and I said, should we create a community? Now, I'm going to tell you why I've been hesitant to do something like this. But the idea would be a place where we could create ongoing conversations, topics like AI. I don't think it would be just an AI focused community, but would be topics like AI, things that come out of these sessions that were like, hey, this is worth discussing further. That we could have some back and forth. That doesn't require a lot of moderation and kind of informal conversation, no formal commitments kind of thing, but does create some prompt and some draw that pulls you in. Could we do this in LinkedIn? Could we do this in Slack, Facebook? I don't know. And that's where I'd like to hear from folks on the phone. I haven't done it because my concern is it does take effort. And if it takes effort, I want to make sure people are going to engage and use it. And so that's why I haven't done it to this point. So I'd rather hear from everybody their real honest thoughts on, is this something I would check once a week, or is it pretty much going to be just noise and the many things that I have going on before I take a next step and actually try and do something. So I'm wondering if we just kind of go, I'll just open it up. Does anyone have comments, thoughts on a community? Would you engage in it? That's the main question. Yes, George.
Sure, I'll give my 2 cents. I love the idea of a community to be able to just bounce ideas off and communicate kind of throughout whenever you have time. Though my only hesitation there is I've joined some kind of like group forums like that and for other types of topics on either Discord or WhatsApp or Facebook, and I think it just needs to be a place where people generally are at already to remove some of the friction would be my 2 cents on that. So like I love the concept, but if I'm not already going there or kind of regularly there, then I tend to check it less, and it kind of goes by the wayside for me.
That's definitely a concern. Other comments? Thank you, George. Facebook or LinkedIn, says Jason. Jeff, I saw you said you would engage. Facebook or LinkedIn, both are things you would use. Bart, what do you have, sir?
I don't know you guys very well, but I need stuff like this. I need community. I need feedback. I'm continually trying to continuously improve the continuous improvement manager here, which is me. So this sounds like a help to me. Thanks.
Let me, any more feedback,
I would at least try it out for a while. I mean, I'm always looking for ways to make my job easier, and I'm trying to use AI to do that. And I'm sure there's people that know a lot more about it than I do that could actually help me in doing that. So I'd be very interested in bouncing ideas off people for sure.
Dan, are you on LinkedIn, Facebook, WhatsApp? What would be your platform of choice?
Probably Facebook or LinkedIn.
Okay. Okay. Chris, what are your thoughts kind of hearing this, and what do you think our next step would be if we wanted to let's not commit on the call here, but what would be a next step?
I mean, it sounds like there's some interest. I'm sure it's kind of one of these things where we don't know how it will work until we see it working and go, okay, here's where people are engaged, here's where they're not. So it may be just something we have to try as maybe a trial and say, hey, we'll do it for X amount of weeks or whatever and see if you guys get value out of it and see how much we need to put into it to facilitate it. But it sounds like there's something here, and it definitely seemed like last month that was a real super active conversation going on with everything everybody's working on, and it's changing so quickly. It does seem like there could be a value here. So this is encouraging. I think it sounds like it could be an interesting place to keep it going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like you might have just splat some things up on the wall and see what sticks, and try to do just like as a minimal investment on your part as possible unless something kind of gains some traction. Like, okay, maybe we can invest a little more time and energy here.
That's how I started my business. Okay, I like it. So Chris and I will work up something more specific and bring it to the group next month. But I like it. I like it. We've talked for a while about like doing something else that makes this a little bit more of a community, and I think that's great. So cool. All right, moving on. Next month, we have a group favorite. Scott Herbst is coming back to us. He's going to talk about kind of how you manage conversation when you have someone that can be very critical. Has anyone, raise your hand if you've been in a Kaizen event where you have someone there who kind of derails things through criticism? Is anyone? Okay.
Are you even in PI if you haven't had that?
No, you're not, right? You got to read the goal, and you got to have someone who's super critical. Good point. So Scott is going to come and talk about how we can encourage solutions and work with those strong critics. So I like this one a lot because, to your point, Jason, I think we often are in situations where we're facilitating. We're the facilitator, and we're trying to manage different personalities. And that's why I always like bringing Scott into these calls, because he's got so many different methods for us to do that. So he's going to come, and most of you have probably been on one of the calls where we've had Scott, but he's a behavioral psychologist. This is what he does, is he looks at group and team dynamics and how people think. And if you're there, he's going to pick somebody probably from the audience and spend a lot of time talking with them. That's kind of how he works, and I like that methodology. So also why I keep asking him back. Okay. All right. So voice of the customer. So I broke my own rule, and I have more slides here than I typically do, and so I'm going to talk for a bit, but then when I start getting low on energy, I'm going to probably do some Q&A. But there's a few stories that I want to tell that I think you'll find useful, and so that's why I put a bunch of slides together, because I just think this is a rich topic. Bless you, Brandy. And watch out for those seasonal allergies. And I will definitely make sure we've got time for Q&A. I just want to set the stage with some of my experience so you kind of know where I'm coming from when we talk about voice of the customer. So, I'm a problem solver. No worries, Brandy. I'm a problem solver, and I'm not in sales. I'm not in marketing. So when I think of customer voice, I think of it from the perspective of what's the objective? What is it that I need to do to satisfy a customer's needs? Now, if anyone on here has been in sales marketing, they're going to say they do the same thing, but I do think for process improvement people, we think of it from a problem perspective, or at least from an operational perspective that I think is different from sales and marketing teams. And so I'm trying to understand what's important to my daily operations in terms of how it impacts the customer and what the customer wants. And I've been in environments, I'm sure you all have as well, where our internal metrics were metrics driven. I'll tell companies like, I'm going to teach you how to be metrics driven. And once you start to become metrics driven, I'm going to explain to you why those metrics might be wrong and why you might need to lay off some of it a little bit, right? And there's this crazy gray area where we have to live. And that's where understanding how that metric actually tells you something about what's important to the customer really matters. And so as CI problem solvers, yes, we should be helping our companies, organizations focus on the metrics that matter. We should also be making sure that we are connecting that we have a strong enough understanding of the customer voice that we're connecting that need with the metric, that customer need with the metric, right? So operational urgency is not always customer urgency. Organizations often optimize assumptions before validating customer value. You're going to hear that in kind of the story I tell. Is, we know assumptions are a problem, but how do we get past them, right? How do we validate them or eliminate them? The first responsibility of improvement is to understand what actually matters to the customer. So that metric that I'm chasing, how does it connect? How does it tell me what the customer actually wants and matters? And the other reason why I was excited actually to talk about this one is we've just completed a project with a client where this was front and center. What I'm describing right now is front and center. And I can't give too many details, but I'll give you some general statements about what we learned and how that impacts their business. All right, so my black belt at Motorola in 2003 or 4 or 5, I don't know, was focused on on-time delivery from our distribution center. Lynn may remember. Lynn, do you remember our distribution center in Schaumburg, Illinois? Maybe, possibly.
I remember it. Not that I ever went there, but
Okay.
yeah, there seemed to be quite a few projects involving the distribution center.
There's lots of. I was a opportunity-rich environment.
It was.
And the problem was we were cash cow. We made a lot of money, so it's kind of like But something that was important was same-day delivery on parts. So the distribution center shipped parts and shipped radios. Parts were for repair depots that were not Motorola repair depots. We had this dealer network that were authorized dealers that could fix Motorola radios. Radios, well, let's just say it this way. The way the system worked and the way we measured, radios also were measured against same-day ship. So my black belt project was to look at, sorry, more details. So parts, we had a 99% same-day ship. That was our performance, 99% same-day ship. That's pretty good, right? Especially if you understood the breadth of parts that we had. Radios bounced between I don't know, it was like 80 to 92 maybe at best. So the sales department, other folks said, hey, why? I don't understand why do we have such a problem shipping radios? Sounds like a great black belt project. Okay, cool. You're right. I was young at that point, and went after it. And it came up with the very obvious solution or opportunity that radios are expensive. Inventorying radios costs a lot of money, and we're not willing to spend the money to inventory enough of those radios to meet a 99% same day. The radios are coming from Penang, which is Malaysia, and there's lots of supply chain disruptions that happen in between. C also, radios are expensive. We won't keep the inventory for all these. And I did get my black belt. I focused on some warehouse level, distribution level improvements. We held a Kaizen event, blah, blah, blah. And I'll always remember the general manager getting really angry with me in a meeting after I had achieved my black belt. And radios were still 90%, maybe it wasn't 85 anymore. We were hitting 90s, but it wasn't very good. And he's like, how did you get a black belt on this, Matt? Which was, that cut deep, man. That hurt. And I actually got a little bit ticked off myself, whether I was in the right to do or not. And I sat back and I'm like, radios are expensive. We don't keep enough inventory. Like, I don't know what to do, right? I didn't even go visit Penang. Like, that wasn't an option on the table for me, frankly. And I said, why are we treating radios the same as parts, right? So first, I challenged an assumption. Why are we treating radios the same as parts? And who's driving this, both metric and operational requirement? And I didn't get an answer, and I actually went to the director, and he was interested in this as well. And he allowed me to do a follow-on project that was customer focused. So I took, so maybe one point here, right? We spent months analyzing how to achieve same-day shipment before validating whether or not this was even really freaking important, pardon my language. Like, why were we driving to this? And so a simple question spun off into a second project for me. And I called 50 of our salespeople, and I called 50 of our channel dealers. And I asked them open-ended questions. So maybe this is point one. I absolutely do multiple choice surveys, broad surveys, and so on and so forth. I want to come back to your question, Jason, because I think you got a good question there. And they serve a certain value. I never start with those, by the way. I always start with an open-ended questionnaire that I ask usually a small number of people, not 50. But this, I can't remember why I didn't just turn it into something more closed-ended. But honestly, my point is, sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. My point is, open-ended questions are very powerful because you can see where the conversation goes and you can extract so much more information. You don't get the volume, but you get a lot more richness in detail, right? And what was very clear from 100 different touch points, and I took notes on all these. I compiled them into categories of feedback. Ultimately, the feedback was make your commitment, right? Parts need to be same day, especially from our channel folks. The channel folks are like, Matt, there's a police officer, there's a first responder on the other side of that radio, and it's not in their hands. I need the part same day so that I can fix it and get it back in their hands. But a new purchase, it's usually a little different. Like they're buying for some future purpose or whatever. They're resupplying, whatever. They're replacing things that are already working. We can live with 3 to 5 days, but get it right. What they were all ticked off with was, and this is how our system worked. You go place your order, you put in the date that you want. So guess what? Everybody puts in today or they put in tomorrow. There's nothing stopping them from doing that, right? So it's really not telling you anything about customer demand or actual need, right? And so usually they're just putting in like tomorrow, but it could be 2 days from now. That's okay in a lot of situations. So those were kind of the major learnings that I took. I just didn't want to skip that. Jason, ask your question, please.
So there's a project client, which may be different from the customer or the end user. And it sounds like your initial project, the work you did there was based off of who was your project client. And I couldn't tell if it was sales or distribution or both.
So good question. So this was when I worked for Motorola. My role was inside of, I believe we called it sales and services, something like that. It's a very sales driven organization. And distribution focused, getting stuff out the door, making the number. So those were the folks that I was answering to. Those were the folks that were also driving this, but internally there was disagreement, right? There was disagreement on what mattered and what was important. So I came back to, does that answer the question, Jason?
Yep. So
I came back to them and I said, hey, look, folks, you've got the distribution center chasing the wrong metric. The customer doesn't want same day. They're okay with, by the way, stated lead time. This is so great, right? Stated lead time on the freaking radios was 3 to 5 days. It wasn't even like stated lead time was 3 to 5 days. We just gave them the ability to ship same day. So when I came back with that information, it was poo-pooed. The sales team came back and said, Matt, they're asking for same day delivery. We see it. It's in all of your numbers. The CRSD information is they want it between 0 and 1 day. CRSD is customer requested ship date. CRSD 0 and 1 day. So no, you guys, this is the distribution center just trying to get out of your poor performance, right? That was the argument. So now the next question in VOC was, okay, how do I prove, right, actual customer intent versus stated, right? Customer states this. This is the problem with surveys, right? Customer states this, but what are they actually going to do? So I floated the idea and got support to make a little temporary change pilot in the system to prove something. And what I asked to do was take one product line and add a $1 fee to same day ship. And so, as you might imagine, lots of orchestration. It did come with some of its own challenges. Took a while to set up. But we took one of our radio products and I can't remember what we did. We blanked out the CRSD, customer requested ship date, and we forced it so that you had two options. You could take same day ship for $1 or lead time, which is 3 to 5 days, for nothing, right? And what happened was what you see right here. We went from 80% of customers requesting same day ship on that radio for the time period. It was 3 months or something like that we ran this pilot, down to 20%. And it was $1. So that was irrefutable at that point. The customer is not willing. So there's so many things you could take with that, right? the customer is not willing to pay a single dollar to expedite. These aren't real expedites, folks. This is misinterpretation of the information. 2, what are we actually stocking in inventory? Because the customer isn't putting the value on speed that you think they are. And so if you're stocking your inventory safety stock so that you can get it same day, of course we really weren't, but if you were, you're wasting money because the customer doesn't really want that, right? It's evidence right here. This changed things. This changed things completely. I still had, by the way, and again, I'm probably preaching to the choir on some of these things. I had people come back to me and go, well, Matt, it was only 3 months. Well, Matt, you know, this blah, blah, blah. Oh, it was a $150 radio or $200 radio. Well, $1, you know, for a $200 radio. Some of our radios were $3,500, you know. So this was a cheap radio, and we're adding $1 to. But frankly, I won the battle at that point, so I take whatever criticism. This drove a change to our systems so that we shipped and measured to a scheduled ship date. We made a promise. We created a promise date. That promise date initially didn't have a lot behind it, but it did move to having some understanding of inventory so we could make some prediction. And then we measured ourselves against the promise. There were still people around, you know, you never completely win, right? There were still people around that are like, oh, but is this really what the customer wants? And but at the end of the day, we got that product line or that business from a very poorly performing on-time delivery and the potential of overstocking to high performing on-time delivery and stocking at what the customer actually wanted because of the work we did around VOC. I'll just pause there. I guess any questions? Yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
I'm just have a follow-up question, and I don't know if you followed up to it. For the 20% that's left, did you find any commonalities for people who actually did have a business need for same day or 1 day shipping that you could then optimize for that business case?
No, and that was so I should have is what I'll say. It wasn't the focus of the project. They may have, I don't know if you knew Mark Wise, Lynn, but he was another master black belt, and he took on this project after I moved on to another role. And I do know this continued for like 3 or 4 years because they did make a bunch of system changes, which you know that doesn't just happen.
Oh yeah.
And they did look at other things. Like some of this was, and maybe this is what you're getting at, there was a premium. This also proved that there was a premium, and this is what you're getting at, right? That you could put on same day ship. So maybe we should be making a premium on that, and then we could stock to that. Here's honestly, you know, and I'm just being transparent. Like during this pilot, we increased stock of that radio. And we still screwed up. I had a screaming customer, and the call center directed them to me because they're like, Matt started this thing. Because he paid the $1 and he did not get same day. Oh, shit. You know, it's like, oh, crap. Like that was the thing I didn't really design very well in my pilot. Which is validation, though, that you're right, Lynn. There is a very real 20% that value this service, and therefore we should price and design the operation around delivering that value, right? And yeah. I don't know if we got that far. I hope we did, but I think you're asking a great question.
Yeah. Well, and I'm also thinking, is there a specific market segment that would allow you to predict this particular radio or radio configuration, whatever, has a higher urgency? It is worth investing to stock more of that in inventory because we know it will be justified to get it out more quickly.
Well, I mean, and you're talking about probably Amazon's business model to some extent.
Just knowing the teaching of pricing of radios and how they're sold, how does that impact? Because I was within the development. And so we were looking at the whole big purchase where it's the infrastructure as well as radios, and you've got months of lead time.
Yep.
So it's not individual radios or an individual order for radios from the distribution center. So this is the sort of thing that's a lot easier 10, 20 years down the road to think of these questions.
Oh, no, all good, all good. I like the questions. Bart, you had a question. I thought.
No, I was just chatting in the chat. Just
okay.
saying it's sometimes I try to think of myself as a customer and what kind of work I want to do. And when I feel like my reports, don't have any customers, then I stop serving those customers.
We did a similar project and saved $600,000. This was one of my first consulting gigs. $600,000 in consulting reports being done by Cognizant. I don't remember who exactly, but yeah. Yep. Anyways, super powerful. So maybe this is what we're both saying, Bart. Internal urgency is not customer value. So reports are a great one. Small, but they're important. We spend a lot of time on them. And just because somebody asked for it doesn't mean we actually need it to serve the customer. And we should be thinking about everything in that light, right? For a major improvement, what does a customer actually value, right? This is in our charters that we use. The business case contains voice of the customer, voice of the business, and voice of the employee. So I want to think of the business case for this project in those three voices. What does the customer want? What does the business want? What does the employee? And I call those out because oftentimes they're different, and I don't want to leave anyone out of the consideration when I'm writing the charter. What evidence supports that belief, right? So I found out we didn't have the evidence, or the evidence we had wasn't very good. It was, what do you call it? Stated evidence, but it wasn't behavioral evidence. Are we measuring assumption or behavior, and what evidence could invalidate our current thinking? So improving the wrong thing faster, it's still a waste. Don't do the improvement. So I moved over the years from sort of system level understanding, like this is what's broken. On-time delivery, go fix on-time, changeover time, go fix changeover. I moved from that to how does this impact the customer? What does this really mean to the customer? And even further, how do I think of this in terms of the broader system? How do I think about the customer's behavior in terms of driving the broader system? Okay. And so that brings me to today. So we just are about to, in the next couple of weeks, we'll wrap up a 6-month VOC project with a client. And with this, I did probably most of the things, maybe not everything that I did in that early project, because it's a little bit different structure, but we did interviews. We did internal interviews and we did customer interviews. We went to the Gemba. Like all of these things are VOC, by the way, especially if you're asking the right question. If you're asking the right question, you'll get VOC in all these places, right? So we went to the Gemba, and their customer is at the Gemba, right? Think of it as a retail operation. So we could watch the customer in action. We'd see how the customer behaves. And by the way, keep in mind, I'm a consultant, so this is my customer's customer, right? That I'm dealing with. And actually, it was even more than that. It was my customer's customer, and I won't get into why that was, but it was a little complex. But we learned a lot through observation, through interviews. We collected data, and we looked at that data to see if it exposed the things we were seeing in terms of customer dissatisfiers, right? And interestingly enough, and no surprise, right? Some of the data contained what the customer cared about. Some of what the customer cared about was missing from their data. We had 4 million data points from this customer. They had tons of data. but they missed a couple places where they should have a timestamp that's important to the customer, and right, we couldn't see that. And then we actually held a Kaizen event where we included the customer. And again, from my perspective, it was customer's customer. So that added some interesting challenges, but provided a lot of richness. And one of the big outcomes of this was that I'll share my customer designs a device that their customer uses. Okay, so they design a piece of machinery that their customer then uses in their retail operations. And my customer has been focused on making the machine go faster, making the machine go faster. That's what I need. It needs to be faster, faster machine. Why? Oh, my competitors' machines go faster, right? They've got to go faster because my competitors go faster. Never a great source. Your competitors are one source of VOC, but potentially the worst source of VOC, because you might just end up copying the same stupid thing that they're doing. What we learned was there's activities that go around. No one's going to be surprised by this. There's activities that go around that support that device. And those activities are consuming almost as much as the device itself. And so the customer, and then watching how the customers use the device in the workplace, in the counter, pointed out that we need to focus on, I'm going to say this in an extreme way, it's not true, but everything but the device speed, right? The usability, the setup activities, the things that it doesn't do smoothly, right? That interrupts flow. Like, this is where we need to focus our engineering efforts, not in the device itself. So in any case, I'm sure you guys have seen that kind of scenario play out, right? We know setup activities on machines often take more time than what the machine is actually doing. But nonetheless, this was still eye-opening. This was still eye-opening and very informative for these folks. And so that's the power. That's the power. And I did what I said I might do, which I used all the time talking, but I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes if you guys have any questions on that story and what it led to.
I mean, it sounds like there's like so many rabbit holes you could have gone down with that project, but you can't solve everything. You gotta be real careful of what your scope is and what you want to focus on to get it done to not have a 5-year project.
And in that case, right, it's prioritization, and finding ways to help the customer, help you prioritize. And same thing, customers are going to tell you everything's important. So how do I create some devices that force them to make a decision because they have to do trade-offs, like pairwise? If you guys have ever done pairwise comparisons or something like that, tools like that can help force people to choose. Jeff, you had your hand up. Oh.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to ask you, when you talk to customers, how many did you talk to? And the reason I ask is our business is very specialized. We sell skeletal muscle cells and storage and growth media to researchers, like people researching muscular dystrophy. So we have a small and specialized customer base. So how many people did you need to talk to before you could aggregate those thoughts into distinct categories?
So the flat answer is 30. I guess the more practical answer is each case is different. What I try and do in every case is 5 to 10 open-ended discussions, and then translate those 5 to 10 into something that is more of a closed loop survey, something where they're forced to pick certain things and go after like 100.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. I thought I saw another hand up.
I'll just piggyback on that. In my experience, Matt, I would agree. you start to see patterns after a certain number, and the number I've seen in the projects I've done is maybe 8 to 10 range. It's kind of all starts to sound the same.
That's Scott's actually the best answer is look for patterns. Keep asking questions until variation starts to disappear and you start to see the patterns. Keep asking questions. If you get to 10 and you're still hearing variations, or there's some region, some segment that you haven't touched, keep asking those questions. Because again, when you jump to the big the large distribution survey that's just going to have bubbles that you fill in, you lose so much richness in that. You're going to lose some clarity from misinterpretation because people are going to misinterpret the questions. Those open-ended discussions help you validate your question structure, the wording that you use, and help you search for the different paths that people are going to go in the answers. And so I try not to cut that short. It is time consuming. And in the world of consulting, I have to be careful because I'm promising some level of effort based on my price. So I'm always careful with that. But nonetheless, I try not to cut that short. Okay. So thank you for sticking with me. Was it okay that I did most of the talking this time? Okay. All right, good. So if I have a rich story like that, I'll do something like this again. We'll be back next month with Scott Herbst. You all, I hope you're enjoying the warmer season here, and look forward to seeing you all in June.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Right. Thanks.